Hello and welcome. If you're just joining us at Big Bad Online 2024, you are watching the Presenting You Online panel. I am Purna M. My pronouns are she, her, and I will throw it over to the other panelists in just a second. I did want to say that the purpose of this panel, if you haven't looked it up and are just joining because Big Bad Online is just awesome and you were just vibing, the whole point is that so many of us spend our lives online and also do a lot of our TTRPG work online. What we need to do is figure out how to reach more people when we want opportunities and want to work in TTRPGs. And in order to do that in the most, I hope, efficient, useful fashion, we have a bunch of experts here and me to say, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about, to tell you how best to reach people you might want to collaborate with, work with, and how best to present yourself online in the TTRPG realm. So, as I said, I am Purna M, and I will throw it over to Connie.
It's a me, Connie. Hey, folks. My name's Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me across the internet at by Connie Chong. I'm typically on Twitter and TikTok, and I am the actual play game master for Transplanar RPG, which is an all transgender, people of color led, dark fantasy TTRPG actual play channel telling stories set in an original non-colonial anti-Orientalist multiverse. Aside from being an actual play performer, I am also a TTRPG designer. Most recently, I've been working on God Killer. I released the ash can of this game last year, but I'm working on the full release with Evil Hat Productions. It is a duet holy punk PBTA inspired game for one player, the God Killer, and one game master, God, though the full version will include a solo play variant as well as a multiplayer variant, so you can all be God Killers at the same table. Very exciting. And I'm so excited to be here at Big Bad Con and to talk about my journey and tools and hopefully some helpful and actionable tips for you all embarking on your own digital narratives and digital careers. And I'll pass things over to Erin.
Hey y'all, my name's Erin Roberts. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a TTRPG writer. I do a lot of freelance writing and designer, and I love/hate going after Connie, who's got it together, got the spiel on lock. I'm always like, what do I do? Who am I now? Anyway, I have written for tons of folks, I think. You can find my work in Dungeons and Dragons books and Pathfinder books and Starfinder books and everywhere and hither and yon, and with lots of indie projects. And I think the most exciting, famous thing about me is that I was one of the Diana Jones Emerging Designer winners last year. Yay! And now I will throw it over.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nala or Jay. My pronouns are they, them. I am at Nala Wu on Twitter and at Nala Draws everywhere else. I am an art director and illustrator working full-time in TTRPGs. You may have seen my work as art director on All the Witches, on the Apocalypse Keys stretch goal book, which is out now. You can buy it for $10 at Evil Hat. And also an exciting project that is going to be announced very soon. And then illustrations, I've worked on Coyote and Crow, Apocalypse Keys, and Uncaged Goddesses, among other things. Besides art, I'm also a voice actor, sensitivity consultant, and TTRPG actual play stream performer. I'm currently on a show called Last of Eden's Vices. It is a VTM show set in Providence, Rhode Island, and episodes are coming out as we speak. Episode 3 will be airing tomorrow, and you can catch up on the backlog on podcast and VOD format. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. I am very excited to be here to talk about how I got started here. I've been working in the space since like 2019-ish, and I'm excited to share my experience and knowledge with all of you.
Amazing. So as you can see, if you are someone who is looking to get into TTRPGs and want to know how to reach potential collaborators, this is the place to be. You have an amazing panel of people who are going to tell you how they did it. So let us go in the same order for the first question. How did you start out in TTRPGs? And when you did, what was the one skill that you thought you could bring to the table? Did you specialize in one thing? Did you want to do everything in TTRPGs? What did you do at the start? Let's start with Connie.
Yeah. Well, I started in actual play, and that's still the kind of main thing I do, though I've kind of branched out and dabbled in game design, some games writing at this point. I initially, my goal was just kind of as a hobbyist. I was like, oh, this seems like a fun thing to do. It was a pandemic project for me, before it became a whole thing, right? And then even though it started out kind of just as a hobby, I say hobby in the sense of I wasn't expecting it to be able to make enough money to sustain me full time. But I would ideally have wanted it to make at least some amount of money, at least be in the black. You know what I mean? So not using my own savings to support this project. So I think there were two main things that set me apart from the very beginning in actual play, and this was back in 2020. So the landscape of APs has changed a little bit in these past 4 years, but I think this advice is still good. One is the craft. I even though I have an improv background, and I really like comedy, I've been doing improv for over a decade and all that stuff. I really enjoy telling jokes and whatnot. I wanted to tell serious stories. I want to tell dramatic stories. And I'd already kind of honed my storytelling voice a lot through school and even before that as a performer on stage and as a screenwriter too. So at that point, I knew what themes I was interested in and the kinds of stories I wanted to explore. I knew I was interested in dark fantasy. I knew I was interested in horror. I knew I was interested in building non-colonial anti-Orientalist worlds. I knew I wanted to be a queer and trans-led project. And I knew I wanted to reach for a really poetic style of storytelling. If you've watched any transplanar content of any kind, if you've dipped into just a single episode of the Chaos Protocol, right, a random podcast episode of God Killer, watched a VOD of the Second Stranger, you'll see what I mean by our poetic style of storytelling. So that was the one craft thing that distinguished me. Leaning into my voice and my interests and taking it as a serious and dramatic art form that wasn't like an art form, right? That was what made it fun and exciting for me. The other was, even though I said it was kind of like a hobbyist venture at first, I approached it and I continue to approach it very professionally in the sense of I want to have a set of standards and shared guidelines and a shared explicitly stated social contract for everyone at the table, not just as players, not just having a session zero and laying out safety tools, though those things are of course important, but also being why are we here? Right? What is our goal in the space? What do we want to accomplish with Transplanar? And what does accomplishment look like to us? And I would have periodic check-ins with my players, my cast, about this. Ask hey, is this getting too intense? Are we asking too much for too little pay? Do you if you want to step away at any point, please, this is a no hard feeling situation, right? And making sure that everyone was working toward the same goal of having Transplanar be recognized as an artistic actual play that has some recognition in the space, that is able to sustain itself, that has sponsor relationships, and all these things started layering themselves in as we collectively work toward that same goal. So I would say that those are the two things that distinguish me: my approach to craft, as well as my taking it kind of seriously from the beginning.
I see what Erin means. I really do. I'm sorry, Erin. I didn't mean to put you in this position.
I have an answer. I can go if you need to think.
You know what? I don't, but I want to hear what you have to say, so go.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I said, I started out in 2019. I was still in college at the time. I have since gotten my BFA in illustration. And I started doing it as sort of a side job while in school. I worked on a couple of freelance art things. And at that time, I was also very quickly realizing that doing concept art for animation was not a great industry to be going into at that time. And as things have developed, I think I made the right decision there. I'm not going to be all sunshine and rainbows about this. I'm not sure if TTRPGs was the right decision either, but I'm here and I'm making it work. And I think that's what's important. So I definitely think at baseline level, as an artist in the space, those are the skills I brought into the table. I have a great passion for art, character design, creating really diverse and unique characters, and working with people to help bring their visions to life. I have a special interest and training in traditional portraiture, as well as fashion design and clothing rendering and that sort of thing. So those were sort of things that made, I think, my work unique in the space, and was definitely stuff that I really enjoy working on. And also, as a multiple marginalized person, my greatest inspiration has always been to help increase the positive representation of marginalized groups in the media space, and being able to work on TTRPG products and like have a direct hand in bringing diversity on the pages that people are going to be seeing. That was very important to me, and something that is still very important to me. And that was my initial thing. And at the same time, I was also getting into actual play on the performance side. I love playing games, and I have a background in theater, and so this was something that like just called to me. It pulls together all like my favorite things. And so I started performing in 2019, at the very end of 2019 as well. And I would love to do more actual play performance work more professionally, but being that I freelance full-time in industry, I don't have a day job. I'm kind of juggling all these random things: art direction, illustration, actual play performance, voice acting, all the stuff I said earlier, sensitivity consulting. I do layout now, and graphic design and branding and all of this stuff. So I kind of do a lot of things, and I do a lot of things because that increases the likelihood, or the things that I could possibly be hired for. And when this is my full-time gig as a freelancer, I need to, or at least I think I need to, make myself available to do a whole lot of different things. Because I think that makes me more valuable as a potential employee, where it's like, not only can I do the art in your book, but I can do the art direction, I can do the layout, I can do visual design, I can do title design, like all of that stuff. So I think that definitely was something that set me apart.
So I was walking
That
down the
is
street, and I tripped over TTRPGs a little bit. So I love that. I was like, y'all are so intentional. It's beautiful.
yeah.
So I come to TTRPGs from prose writing. So whoa, I want that to happen on
Ooh,
my screen.
yeah.
Let's see. Oh, nothing happened. Okay, so I am a science fiction fantasy writer originally, and so I still do that. So I write prose, and so, but I love format. I love telling stories and thinking about what format is best to tell which story. And I've always loved that. So I was writing short stories, and then I was making interactive fiction pieces, and then I was writing scripts, and I was just doing different things, different formats, and going out and meeting people and being like, I love telling stories, however I can tell them. What's up with you? And I like games. I want to do more games. And I just like say things to people a lot, and then it turns out that occasionally when you say things to people they go, oh, actually I know about a way you could do that, and like, actually, hey, let me connect you with this project, or let me connect you with this person. And so I really wanted to try it. I really wanted to like get into TTRPGs, and I got the opportunity, which is just a combination of coolness and luck, and the moon is in the seventh house and all that good stuff. But I like to think that I then made the most of it by being, timely and figuring out what I could do and being nice to work with. The big trifecta of freelancing is always, are you on time? Are you good at what you do? And are you fun to work with? And you can do two really well and three a little iffier. Like, you can give two A's and a B. You can't do an F in any of them, really. And I would always pick being fun to work with as one of your two A's, because otherwise the amount that you have to be on time and good is so extreme in order to get over the fact that everyone hates your guts and secretly wants to kill you, like, behind the scenes. So be good to work with, and then one of those other two. Uh, so, so I was like, okay, I'll go do that. And I think what I bring to the table is a storytelling perspective from outside of TTRPGs. Like, a lot of the stuff going on in this space, like, I knew the format, like I would read and play, but I didn't know the drama. I didn't know the people. Like, I didn't know a lot of the personalities. I just sort of came into it. And while on the one hand, occasionally that you can get you into trouble because you're like, I just made a best friend. It's this person, and they're like, this person killed 8 people in the TTRPG space. Why are you their bestie? On the positive side, like, sometimes you bring a new perspective because you're like, oh, why can't we do this thing? And people are like, oh, nobody does that. I'm like, well, I want to, and I don't know any better, so I'll try. And then I also think, like, I'm a teacher as well, and I love to bring like analysis and thinking about why stories work the way they do. And so I put a lot of time into figuring out, why does this format work? What will work? What doesn't? Learning from other people, and just surrounding myself with like smart, amazing people like these folks here on the screen. It's true.
That was just beautiful. That was just oh my God, those were all beautiful answers. But also what I'm getting is that all of you are coming at it are coming to TTRPGs from incredible backgrounds where you had highly specialized skills, which you decided to then use for something that you really love, which was different forms of storytelling, which you're bringing to the industry. And for me, what was really interesting is that I didn't have any certification or particular background is in a skill that lends itself to TTRPGs, right? I came from economics and I came to TTRPGs and made no sense, whatever. And then I played TTRPGs. I thought they were cool. I said to my friend who had been making games for a long time by that point and was well established in the industry, I said, "Hey, dude, have you heard of D&D?" And they were like, "Yes." Anyway, so it was great. It was a journey. Then I learned that the barrier to entry into TTRPGs was low, especially if what you wanted to start out with was writing for TTRPGs. You could really just create and tell stories and contribute. And like Erin said, if you were fun to be around, that was really half the battle won. And I'm hoping by virtue of the fact that these people have shown up for this panel, I'm fun to be around. Anyway, so cool. Now, having established that, how do you, in whether you want to be or not, so I know that Connie, you have, or at least until God Killer, you had a very specific vision of this is what I want to do in the TTRPG space. This is kind of what I will be doing. Hopefully, I will be earning enough. And I think I will be earning enough is something that we all can sort of set aside for the moment because TTRPG world, are you guys earning? Because we're not. Anyway, so how, now that you are donning two different hats, do you think that you need to guard against being siloed into APs or game design, or do you think there is a particular that there is harm in specializing in something, or is it okay to be wearing many hats? Sorry, words are hard right
Yeah, no. It's a good question. And I think this also kind of speaks to an audience question that I see our lovely chat moderator has dropped in our private chat for us to see, which is about like the question of, is it better to have a diverse set of skills, right? Or to specialize in a one particular skill, as you mentioned, Purna? And like, how do I kind of guard against being siloed, right? In terms of the kinds of projects that I'm considered for. I would say for me, it depends on, well, it depends on your goals in the space, right? It depends on what you want to do and what success looks like and means to you. So for me, I started out by wanting to be an actual play storyteller. That's what I wanted. And then as I was doing actual play, I started doing game design. It starts with homebrewing for me as a game master, homebrewing systems to like make them work. And then that kind of naturally for me lent itself to like then doing actual game design. Like I wrote like a micro RPG. I wrote a couple of modules. I kind of cut my teeth. I put those like up on itch like 2 or 3 years ago, right? I cut my teeth there. And then I started thinking like, well, a lot of these systems that I play like on my channel, like they do scratch that itch, but they're not quite like doing exactly what I want them to do. And I also still had an itch that I wanted to scratch as a writer. Like I came from a screenwriting background and I've always been interested in narrative design and game design. So I started working on God Killer as kind of my long-term personal, like original project. And that's kind of like taken me in a really exciting place for the full game. And I started doing like freelancing on various projects. Like I freelanced on the Tianxia World Guide for Paizo that's coming out. And I wrote on the Republic City supplement published by Magpie Games for Avatar Legends recently. and a couple of other like more indie, like crowdfunded projects here and there, and started building a reputation for myself as a game designer that way as well. And this kind of came out in the branding of it as well. So I think I am in the space first and foremost known as an actual play person, and then like kind of in like smaller titling underneath. Like I do some game design and writing, right? And an even like smaller, like this is like deep Connie lore is like screenwriter, right? Because that's not a career path I'm actively pursuing right now, though that was what I thought I would do. I have a bachelor's in screenwriting and critical race studies. I thought I was going to move out west and do the whole Hollywood thing, right? But then my plans changed, right? My interests changed, my passions shifted. So I think it depends on what you want to get out of the space and sharpening your skills to kind of like reflect what you want. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer here. I think in some industries and for some roles, it is helpful to have a diverse array of skills and things you can bring to the table as a contractor or as an employee. And in some industries, it really behooves you to kind of like hone in deep. I think either way, if you're honing in deep, you also always want to give yourself like, make sure that the skills you have are transferable as well. And this is kind of my advice for content creators, generally speaking. And if you're interested in being like a TikTok creator or an Instagram creator or like a YouTube creator, like take it kind of slowly. You don't have to like buy the $4,000 camera and the incredible stream layout and invest in like an $8,000 rig immediately. Like kind of take it slow, right? If you're drilling down deep, like dig that drill like a couple of feet every day, right? Don't like immediately throw yourself down the well, right? Because then the risk is much higher, right? You can kind of like offset some risk by having other skills that you can transfer to other industries or into other roles. If something that's happening because of the feast and famine nature sometimes of freelancing isn't quite working out for you, if it's like an ebbing away moment instead of like, oh, okay, a lot of offers and roles and leads are coming in right now.
I have an observation to share with you. I think in my own personal experience, um, I do both like very public facing content creation, just being a like person that is known in the space. I think a lot of that comes from my actual play work. I wouldn't say that I have the platform I have because of my art. I would like it to be that way, but it just didn't pan out that way. I think people liked the words that I said on Twitter. I used to do a lot more of this back when I had more energy to do so, but I used to do a lot more like activism and educational content and making long threads about why you should let diverse people make games, like stuff like that. And a lot of people I think followed me for that, and then also my actual play work, and doing that sort of stuff. And it was always this thing of me being like, or at least I think I know why people are following me. But hey, look, I do art. This is the main thing. This is what I got my degree in. I do art. Let me draw for you. Like this is how I actually make my money. Yay. And so I haven't necessarily solved that, but I will say that being a person who's very extroverted, I think that's definitely helped me in terms of getting work and being able to find work, because I love networking. I love talking to people, love meeting new people. And the actual play performance work helps me get my name in front of people, because people come watch the stuff I'm in. And at the end of every show, I'm like, I do art. Yay. And so that's just an observation that I've made. Again, I don't think necessarily one thing is better than others. I literally started off this whole panel saying I do like a bajillion things. And I think it's impossible for me to constantly market all of my skills at equal like loudness, if that makes sense. And so I typically have to try to like pick and choose like what I really feel like doing. But because I freelance full time, I have more freedom of what I want to be doing. So like this year, I'm looking for more layout work because I'd love to get better at that and to do more layout work. And so I've been really pushing that thing, and I've been getting more layout work, and that's really great. But I think it is definitely hard. I would very much not like to be pigeonholed, I think, into one specific thing because I do so much. And I think honing a lot of skills has been beneficial to me, and it's worked for me. Do I wish I could have focused on art, I think, more closely and be doing more like specific like ways that I can improve my own work? Yeah, maybe, but I'm enjoying where I'm at right now, and I think that's important to love what you do. Or at least that's important for me as someone who's very motivated and I have the ADHD neurodivergence thing going on. I have to like what I'm doing to have any motivation to do anything. So I follow where my heart goes.
And I think it's really important to note that whether you're doing this as a side hustle or
Full time.
so whether you have a day job or whether you're doing freelancing full time, you definitely need to find joy and follow the joy wherever it's taking you. So if you have a bunch of skills that you can use in the space, you don't need to market all of them all the time, as Jay said. You don't need to constantly prove yourself on every single front, but it's useful to make a note of what you have done also, because as you will note from just this conversation, can you remember everything that they said they've done? No. So you will also forget stuff you have done eventually after a couple of years, because time is a construct. Keep a note of the stuff that you've done and keep a note of the stuff that you've enjoyed about stuff you've done.
I have a quick thing before you, if you're about to ask another question, which is I've constructed a theory of hats, socks, and necklines while I was listening. So okay.
I'm ready. Hit me.
Here's my theory. Socks are the things that you bring with you, right? But nobody sees. These are the skills that you have, that you've picked up along the way, that like the knowledge that you have could be an identity that you have, could be like, I'm really good at making Excel charts, which no one actually is very helpful for my design work, but is not a thing. Like no one's like that Erin and her Excel. Because like those are the socks that I bring with me. Like, so it's a thing that like is part. And I think it's important to note that there are lots of socks that help. They're great. They keep your feet warm. They help you do the work that you're doing, so that while everyone is looking at your hat, your feet are not cold. And so I think it's really important to like, just because a skill isn't one that's being publicly acknowledged or one that you're like showing off at this moment doesn't mean that it's not key and critical to your work and that you shouldn't like ignore it. Don't let your socks get holy. And just because nobody's looking at them but you. Then you got your hats, like your public facing stuff. And I think that one thing that I was noticing as y'all were talking is like, I think we wear a lot of hats, but the hats are kind of like similar, if that makes sense. Like there are like
you have an aesthetic.
You have an aesthetic.
A type of hat.
You got a thing.
Wear.
Like yeah. I do writing and not art. Like I am like drawing any sort of I can't do it. I love people who can do it. I think it's amazing. But like certain things will just never look good for you. Let me tell you, an off the shoulder dress, never going to be my look. That neckline is not working for me. Certain skills you're probably not going to pick up. You should find other people who are great at that. You're not going to do it. You know what I mean? And be like, these are the things I'm going to let go. But for the hats, literally. Like I love to I love to tell stories. Thank you for letting me chaos for a moment. I love to tell stories. And for me, like it's like, where does the diversity lie? For me, I'm never going to pick up art, but I like to write across systems. So I like to I will write for 5e one day and Daggerheart the next day and like Paizo the day after that. And some new system we made up yesterday, on some other day. That was a lot of the word day. And, but those are all the hats. And I think it's important to note them and also to tell people what they are, because nobody knows the things that you don't say. And so something that's been really exciting for me this year, and then I'll be done, is I've been getting a lot of work doing fiction writing within TTRPGs, because I always tell people, well, I originally came from fiction, but I'm not wearing that hat as much, but it's still there in my closet. And then when people have a project, they remember and they think of you and they go. So you want to have a variety of hats that you tell people about, secret socks, and then necklines that you do and don't attempt.
First of all, I want to eat your brain. That was amazing. Second of all, I want to touch on something you said too. I think it's really important to at least be aware of and acknowledge the stuff that you cannot do. And I think that's fine. I'm not saying this to be like, oh yes, you need to think about all the stuff you're bad at. That's not what I mean. For myself, I'm aware that I cannot draw dragons, I cannot draw armor, and I don't like drawing horses. And so if someone asked me to draw that kind of stuff, I'd be like, yeah, I could, but there's tons of other artists out there who are really good at doing that, and please go hire them over me. Instead, let me draw character designs that don't wear armor or let me draw stuff that I specialize in. And I think that's something that was really important for my sort of artistic journey. Because in the terms of like honing skills, I'd rather get better at the stuff that I know that I enjoy drawing rather than struggling to learn at the stuff that I'm not really that good at, because I know that no matter how hard I try to learn how to design guns, there's going to be someone who's better than me at that. So I don't want to waste my time and energy doing that when I'm very sure I'm not going to ever be good enough or better than a person who that is their number one thing. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I think-
yeah. Really excellent answers from like Erin and Nala. And I just want to say, like, again, also, +1 on eating your brain, Erin. That was
Yes.
a very succinct, very clear analogy. And yes, I think following your passion is really important. It kind of sounds kind of cliche, like follow your dreams, but really that's what's gonna like feed you through this. Because if you're not passionate about what you're making and you're just trying to feed an algorithm or go viral or like get big, that's you're chasing false gold, right? And I think a very valuable piece of career advice I received a number of years ago that's kind of guided me is you have to help people know how to help you. And that's why I think knowing how to present yourself online is so important, because if I'm in a people are talking about you in other rooms in a positive, not threatening, positive way, right?
Threatening.
So if you know you want to do
people are talking about you, positive. People are talking about you, threatening.
Right. No, but it's both. But in this case, it's positive. If you know you want to do layout, that's your passion. You love doing layout. You love doing that sort of design, and you market yourself as a layout person. You're like, hey, my name here, a layout person. It's in your Twitter handle. It's in your description. It's in how you talk about yourself. Then when someone else enters a room and they hear from like a third person that they're looking for a layout designer, your name's gonna be like in the forefront. They're gonna be like, oh, excuse me. They're gonna be like, oh, Connie's a layout artist. Hey, Connie has a great business card. You should go to Connie's website and check them out. So that helps people help you. So having a clear story, kind of like a 60-second pitch. That's why I have like the transplaner spiel, like kind of like down pat. I know what the channel's about, and it helps me describe what we do, what we stand for, and the kinds of stories we tell in like a sentence. And that is what sticks in people's minds. And you also want to make sure that what you're quote unquote selling or what you're doing is accurately reflected in how you talk about yourself, because how you sell yourself can get people in the door, but they stay for the content. They stay for how good it is. They stay for what it's like to work with you, right? They stay for how timely you are, like all of those things. So both of these things are important, the staying power and what gets people in.
So those were all incredible answers. Erin, if you're serving your brain, I'll have a bite. But weird thing to say, but words are hard. So this is good. This is recorded. It's going on YouTube forever. Anyway, moving swiftly forward, I do want to make sure that we capture, for instance, if you had to pick something, this can be within your own portfolio or something that you admire about someone else. If you had to pick something that you would look at now with the experience that you have and you say, you know, this is a green flag in someone's online presence. This is something that would make me want to work with them or hire them. What's up?
Oh, I just have an answer.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Please finish asking your question.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's something you would notice about someone specifically in their online presence, which would make you say, I would like to collaborate with this person. We will start with Jay, because I feel like...
Please put your emails somewhere easy to find. That is the number one thing I'm yelling at people. Your email should either be in your bio, and if it's not in your bio, because I know mine's not, it should be in your pinned tweet. Or like a very easy place to find, because it's really annoying when I find someone I want to work with and I have no idea how to contact them, and I don't want to slide in their DMs because I don't think that's that super professional. Like for me personally, I'd rather email someone because I feel like that's a little bit more professional than just like sliding in the Discord DMs or something. So please make your email easy to find. I feel like as an art director, when I'm looking for artists, your portfolio link and your email should be easy for me to find. And I think that's like my number one thing. And I will speak so briefly about portfolios. Your portfolio should be a gallery of your best work. Simply that. You want to make it as easy to navigate as possible. Put all your best work at top. And a little about me, whatever. Sure, fine, great. But as an art director who's going to be looking at your work, I need to be able to see your best work first, as easy as possible. Make it easy for us to look at your work and to want to hire you. So That's my little spiel. Green flags, email in bio, pronouns in bio. And I think that's my big one that I just want to get out there.
And
Mm.
on the flip side, what would be a red flag where you would say, I'm not sure, like what would not necessarily turn you completely away from someone, because you might not want to mention something like this, but what would put them lower down on the list if you were considering someone collaborating
Are you asking
on
me
their online
as
presence?
like a follow-up question?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Also, it's part of the questions. Yes.
I think like at least in portfolios, if someone's just not professional ready, I mean that's a whole nother conversation. And that's fine. I think everybody's on their own path to improving, and your style might not be what a particular art director is looking for. It's not necessarily that your work is terrible. It might just be that your style is just not what they're looking for. And that's totally fine. But I think another thing is that if you have very, very political messages, no matter where in the political spectrum you fall, you should just know that will turn people away. So I'm not saying don't be political in your art. I personally believe in being political in your art. That's very important to me. My political values are important to me. But I say that to people is in that if you want to be political, you need to stand by your words and stand by what you believe in. And just know that some people will turn away from you. And for me, like being a very openly queer trans person of color, I'm fully aware that, saying my pronouns might make people be like, ew, I don't want to work with you, but like, I don't want to work for them either. And it's kind of that like first barrier line of defense of like, do you want to hire me? I'm a non-binary person. How will I be treated at your workplace? That's like the basic line of respect. And that was important for me to start off by being very open about my identities. But people might not want to hire you, but I'm okay with that, and I can live with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that makes complete sense. Yeah, Connie, go ahead.
Yeah, totally. This is such a fun question. Yeah, same question. Yeah. I would say a green flag, this is specific, is specifically for artists. If you're white, saying that you're white in your bio,
please,
especially if you are a white artist drawing a lot of characters of color, and you especially if those characters of color are like main OCs that you use in your profile picture or in your banner, and you don't say that you're white, that is a red flag for me. So if you on the flip side, if you're white and you identify as such, that's actually a green flag to me, because it shows me that you have like some degree of racial consciousness to be able to like state your positionality. That actually makes me more liable to want to work with you than like see that you're white and be like, oh, I don't want to work with you because you're white. Like that actually doesn't really happen with me. It kind of makes me think the opposite. A broader thing, and this is both a green and a red flag, like something I look out for, is like kind of what Nala said, kind of like where you fall on the political spectrum. If you're like openly a Nazi or a fascist, that's absolutely no.
Boo!
Like I'm obviously depending on the platform, know that your likes are public and that people look through them. I do. So I look through like what you like, and I as someone, when looking for like someone to collaborate with, I also and I'm able to distinguish between like, oh, this is someone's like personal account. So I'm not going to judge them as harshly on their personal account, like versus like their art or their professional account. But I think there is a degree of like, not like the kind of like white supremacist hashtag professionalism that I'm looking for. Like, I don't care if you swear, I don't care if you have like a vent tweet or whatever. I don't care if you post a funny picture of like your cat with, who's sleeping, and you like caption like, oh, hashtag my baby boy slut or something. Like, that's funny. Like, I don't care. Like, that's fine. Right. But there are some things I think that, what is on the internet is forever. So I do watch out for people who are aware of that and like seem to be aware of that in how they post, right? So like specifically, it's one thing I think to like kind of defend yourself, especially if you're getting like harassment or hate, and another to constantly go around picking fights. And that's something I look out for as well. That's why I check people's like replies sometimes. I'll be like, what? Because that kind of like communicates to me how you deal with conflict and how you interact with other people. Because I'm like, oh, if this person's constantly picking fights, like what happens if we're on a project together and like someone comments something, like gives feedback on something, and you gotta go off on them, like that's going to be an issue, right? So I think it's about like seeing how you conduct yourself, seeing where your values are politically and personally and artistically, and seeing like if you have like a general basic fundamental understanding of like race relations.
Yeah. Plus one to all of that. I know we're running low on time, so I will quickly red green, which is just to say there's a difference to me between being outspoken, having strong beliefs, and just being a mean person. It's hard to explain, but like there are ways to critique things without being like like just like in real life, some people are just mean. And if you seem like you're mean and you're always mean, not just like one bad mean day, but like every time you critique something in the space or talk about something, you're like, I can't believe this fool could possibly do this thing. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of negative energy. I don't really want to work with you. I like people who are passionate about what they're doing, passionate about what they believe, and not nasty and seem like they're the kind of person that like will ruin my day every time I talk to them because they just like have a lot of nasty, mean, spiteful energy. Be powered by spite. Don't send it to others.
Mm-hmm. Like not everything also has to be an outdoor thought, and by outdoor I mean like public internet place. Like
Inside
I
thoughts,
don't.
people.
Yeah, I can't see
I have a
or
private
hear.
Twitter for a reason.
Yes, exactly. So like it also kind of communicates to me a little bit of like not impulse control necessarily, but like, oh, this person airs all their dirty laundry constantly in public. You know, what happens if we have a minor conflict? Will you just go to your to your Twitter or your profile like instead of working it out with me first, right? Like stuff like that. Like this is it goes into like the crucial third point on the triangle of like how are you to work with.
So I think a bunch of really interesting things have come out a lot of it should be we think of as intuitive or common sense, but might not be obvious to everyone. So it's important, hence the point of this panel. But I think something that I noticed when all three of you were speaking is also that some of the things that have been mentioned that you should be conscious of are also very specific to the US or like a specific place you are. So obviously you have to be true to your own lived experience and what your actual political beliefs are, as opposed to catering to an audience that might not necessarily be where you live, because you might just be making broad generalizations and not really getting into the nuance of the thing. So if you don't understand an issue, it's okay not to weigh in on it. And it's really, really okay not to make that your identity. The other thing that I do want to stress is that because so many of us outside of the States are, let's face it, looking for TTRPG jobs or catering to a TTRPG audience that might largely be in the States, if you do want to be hired as a freelancer and work with international audiences, it is useful to also just keep in mind that there will be very strong feelings about political things. And if you are maintaining a separate professional account and personal account, then your professional account really should, as everyone has said, highlight who you are as a person to work with, whether you are going to be reasonable when it comes to working on projects together, whether you're going to be someone who can learn from their mistakes or just only reacts defensively to things. Aside from showcasing your skills, aside from it being obvious how to contact you if someone likes your vibe, what they've read from you in other projects, or what they've seen of your art, or what they've seen of your performances, they should be able to find you. They should be able to recognize who you are as a person and what you would be like to work with. And they should be able to say, this person's incredible. To really hire them and give them lots of money and earn lots of money myself. And hopefully one day we will all have more than the same $20 that everybody in the TTRPG space passes around to each other. On that note, since we are running out of time, I do want to give you all, since you're all working on so many incredible things, time to talk about those things. So I will go in reverse order because I feel like, Erin, I keep on coming to you last and not giving you enough time to talk. I'm going to go to Erin first. Erin, what you working on?
I'm working on a bunch of different stuff, which is amazing. And because I'm not good at presenting myself and listing all my projects quickly, I am just going to say, check me out on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, at Narelle, Nirele, which is L Aaron backwards. If you like hearing me talk about writing, I'm actually on a podcast that happens every week, Writing Excuses, talking about the craft of writing. So you can always find me there. And then, I don't know, I just want to say that the biggest piece of advice that I have, which has nothing to do with where to find me, is keep track of everything you do. It's already been said, put it somewhere you can find it, and note what you're under NDA for and what you're not, so that when people ask you cool things, you have better answers than I have right now.
Do as we say, not as we do. Jay, what you working on?
Hi, everyone. Nala J, pronouns they, them, on Twitter, at Nala Woo, everywhere else, at Nala Draws. That includes Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, etc. Um, I would like to plug, I am on another VTM show besides ET1 by Night, called Last of Eden's Vices. Our third episode is airing tomorrow. You can catch up on the VODs, also on podcast platforms. It takes place in Providence, Rhode Island. I am playing the complete antithesis of Verdian Song, who I played on ET1 by Night. Erlyn is a sad, wet cat of a vampire who didn't want to be turned in the first place. Malkavian, art school dropout, burnout, all of that stuff, and is the comic relief of the group? Question mark. And I'm having a lot of fun because it's very different from the types of like calm, cool, collected, girl bossy kind of characters I typically play. So I'm having a lot of fun with this game, and y'all should go watch it because the story is going to get wild. And also go watch ET1 by Night. We got 2 seasons up. I'm going to pass it to Connie.
It's me, Connie. Connie Chong, pronouns they, he, she. I'm everywhere at by Connie Chong, BYCONNIECHANG. I specifically on Twitter and TikTok the most, is where I do some content creation. I am also on Transplaner RPG as the GM and the showrunner. Transplaner RPG. There are no E's in Transplaner. Sometimes people spell the planer with an E. All A's. Transplaner RPG. On YouTube, Twitch. Those are our main places, Tumblr and Instagram. We stream Saturdays at 8 p.m. US Eastern Time, except for this Saturday because we're doing a panel at Big Bad Con online called Love Persevering, exploring grief through performance in actual play. So it's the cast of the current main campaign on Transplaner RPG, The Chaos Protocol, talking about tragedy, talking about how we approach grief, what grief means to us, why we like exploring grief as a topic as performers, and methodologies of safety as we tackle these serious themes. Other than that, I am working on Godkiller, being published through Evil Hat Productions. So follow Evil Hat's mailing list and follow me on my socials to kind of get hip to the latest Godkiller news. I may or may not be moving Godkiller into a studio for some AP stuff coming up soon. So if you're interested in that, give me a follow on by Connie Chong on Twitter. That's mainly where I post. And I also just want to impart one last piece of advice while we're here. This is the other really big piece of advice that I've gotten in my own career that has served me really well, which is that success, again, however you define it, can kind of, there are kind of 2 components to it. One is the luck. Straight up, it's just luck. It's kind of like, and that it's like 50%, if we're being real, probably more than that, it's luck. And then it's about positioning yourself to be able to take advantage of the luck that comes your way, which means having a portfolio that is ready to show someone. If someone's like, oh, you know, I'm actually hiring, I'm actually looking to cast someone for this. Do you have like a reel anywhere? And you don't have one? You know, that's kind of the luck was out of your control, but not being prepared is kind of on you. So make sure you are prepared to take advantage of doors that open for you. That is kind of how I got like several breaks in the space, is someone just so happened to see me perform, and I just so happened to have a reel, and they were able to like get me on, like Adventuring Academy for Dimension 20. Like that's how that happened. It was like luck plus opportunity and positioning. So like make sure you are, make sure that you are not the reason why you don't get stuff, right? Because there's a lot of stuff you can't control, but the things that you can control, right? Make sure that you do.
And just to add to that, if you don't get every opportunity that comes your way, that's okay. You can apply to so many more. People are making incredible things in this space, and that just continues to grow, especially as more and more people around the world discover TTRPGs and the joy of telling stories through them. So yes, you should definitely position yourself for success, but don't worry if you're not there yet. The whole point of panels like this is to give you the tools, give you the things to think about that you can say, okay, now I know what people are looking for when they're looking for collaborators in the space. Let me go and figure out how to show people I am someone they want to collaborate with. Thank you so much for watching this panel. I am Bruna M. I am half of Weave Games. We make Love is on the Cards, A Stitch in Time, and other two-player games. A lot of other fun stuff coming up that I can't talk about, but what I can say is that we have just put out a TTRPG content calendar, which is free for everyone to use. So if you would like to put your stuff, whether you have 1,000 viewers or 2, just put your stuff on the TTRPG content calendar and people will know where to find you. Thank you so much for watching this panel. I hope you're enjoying Big Bad Online 2024 and enjoy the rest of this incredible array of panels.